Okay, 5 o'clock. Are we ready? Yeah. Okay, so for the recording, welcome. We are ACI Course 1, Class 4 on July 27, 2023. Let's gather our minds here, please, as we usually do. Bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you, just by way of your thinking of them. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion, their wisdom radiating from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Think about how much you would like to be able to help them. And how wonderful it would be if we could help in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they would go on to stop their distress forever. We are learning that it's possible. And if it's true, does that inspire you? And if it does, turn your mind back to that precious being before you. Recognize that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn, what we need to do to become a one who can help that other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the pure world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands. And we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may I reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class, may you reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every other. So again, I will read our text. Just listen and recall what you know about what we've studied so far. We haven't gotten very far, but it's coming. So translators, right? You're welcome to just read yours, okay? Okay, here we go. The 3 principal paths. I bow to all high and holy lamas. As far as I am able, I will explain the essence of all high teachings of the victors, the path that all their holy sons commend, the entry point for the fortunate seeking freedom. Listen with a pure mind, fortunate ones who have no craving for the pleasures of life and who, to make leisure and fortune meaningful, strive to turn their minds to the path which pleases the victors. There is no way to end without pure renunciation, this striving for pleasant results in the ocean of life. It is because of their hankering life as well that beings are fettered. So seek renunciation first. Leisure and fortune are hard to find. Life is not long. Think it constantly. Stop desire for this life. Think over and over how deeds and their fruits never fail, and the cycle is suffering. Stop desire for the future. When you have meditated thus and feel not even a moment's wish for the good things of cyclic life, and when you begin to think both night and day of achieving freedom, you have found renunciation. Renunciation, though, can never bring the total bliss of matchless Buddhahood unless it is bound by the purest wish. And so the wise seek the high wish for enlightenment. They are swept along on 4 fierce river currents, chained up tight in past deeds hard to undo, stuffed in a steel cage of grasping self, smothered in the pitch black ignorance. In limitless rounds they are born, and in their births are tortured by 3 sufferings without a break. Think how your mothers feel. Think of what is happening to them. Try to develop this highest wish. You may master renunciation and the wish, but unless you have the wisdom perceiving reality, you cannot cut the root of cyclic life. Make efforts in ways then to perceive interdependence. A person has entered the path that pleases the Buddhas when for all objects in the cycle or beyond, they see that cause and effect can never fail. And when for them, they lose all solid appearance. You have yet to realize the thought of the able, as long as 2 ideas seem to you disparate: the appearance of things, infallible interdependence, and emptiness beyond taking any position. At some point, they no longer alternate, come together. Just seeing that interdependence never fails brings realization that destroys how you hold 2 objects. And then your analysis with view is complete. In addition, the appearance prevents the existence extreme and emptiness that of non-existence. And if you see how emptiness shows in cause and effect, you will never be stolen off by extreme views. When you have grasped, as well as I, the essential points of each of the 3 principal paths explained, then go into isolation, my child, make mighty efforts, and quickly win your ultimate wish. So we're still learning the background material that we need to understand these verses. So we haven't really gotten very far into the verses themselves. Last class was about coming to a conclusion that we needed a teacher. We wanted a teacher. And then we learned what qualities we should be looking for in that person that we are considering, like devoting our mind to for their guidance. So we were given 10 classical qualifications that we would look for in this teacher. So who can give me just, let's actually do the first 6, because those have to do with the qualities of the teacher. The second 4 are about their teaching. So let's do the first 6 in any order. I don't care. Somebody give me just one of those qualities.
High moral ethics.
High moral ethics. Good. Thanks, Tracy. And second, another one. I will use my finger. Victor, give me one of those.
At peace. So it means that it's a meditative concentration.
Yes. So they have deep meditative concentration and off their cushion, right? That high level of Jampa and Sheshan. Good. Recollection. Thank you. How about the third one? Oh. Just look at your notes. I don't care.
So this, it's sort of the same as the second, but it's high peace, high levels of.
Right, but what does it mean?
That it probably means they've seen emptiness directly or understand it pretty darn well.
Yeah, we have another one that more directly addresses that. This one is that they live according to that wisdom, right? They have that high wisdom, but this, we're watching their behavior and it's like, whoa, they must know that. They must know that, right? Good. 1, 2, 3, the 3 collections. 4, 5, 6. What have we got? They have high spiritual qualities, higher than me, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Rich in scripture. Somebody just wrote it in the chat, right? Now comes crystals, the deep realization of suchness. Either seen it directly or proved it to themselves and do so repeatedly. The last 4 have to do with their teaching ability, right? How to teach on the level of the student, perfect. Called the master, they're a master of teaching. Next one. They make great effort. They're having fun, right? Another one. Letitia answered, but I don't know what it said.
They listen to themselves.
They practice what they preach. They're beyond getting discouraged, and they are the image of love, right? Okay, good. So then Geshe Michael says, you know, we don't want to trust our spiritual progress to just, you know, any old person. So we have this criteria for looking, but then we also don't want to trust our spiritual real estate to just any old teaching. You know, that there could be a very charismatic person, right, who has a method, and maybe it worked for them and only them. Right? If it's not based in some kind of authenticity, meaning, we'll learn what that means. We may end up spinning our wheels. And it's not that we don't learn something, we do, of course. And it's not that they don't have, you know, some piece of the puzzle that's useful. This teaching is suggesting, if we can find a complete and authentic system that's been shown to work through history, you know, we've got something we can have greater confidence in. And you know, I remember hearing this for the first time, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, of course I'd want that. I didn't even know there was such a thing. Now that I'm learning that there is, of course, that's what I'm interested in. And then as I learn more and more about emptiness and karma, it's like, well, really, you know, there's nothing in the Buddhist teachings that make them authentic or functional either, except my own seeds that are ripening to learn that it has this history and it has this tradition and it has this method that we're supposed to learn to use that checks everything that it teaches us to be sure that it is valid and useful. So I still go into these classes, you know, wanting it to be black and white. Just tell me what to do. And the more we learn, the more the shades of gray, right, get richer and richer. And it's been a struggle to get away, for me, to get away from that. You know, it needs to be this way. I need to be able to show it to myself in this way. Because there's nothing about the teachings that are that succinct. And yet we get all these instructions as if they are, right? So we already know the punchline, right? It's all coming out of our own past goodness. And this confusion and conundrum is also coming out of our combination of goodness born of ignorance, of misunderstanding. So as we piece together the fundamental principles as if they're in them, from them, we can learn to work with them, to come to see that they're not in them, from them, and so they exist in the way that they do for us, and so they can work. Right? So I just want to help myself as I'm listening to this class have my right perspective. So this class is about, well then, what makes an authentic teaching? And then what makes an authentic student? Right? Because that's the third piece, is how do I be a student that can use these teachings in such a way that they can actually work, because they can't work by themselves. The teacher can't make us change our behavior choices based on what they've taught us. So they can only lay out the program, and then it's up to us to do something with it or not, right? Totally our choice. And our choice in how much we want to apply it. Okay, so how do we know that the teachings we're receiving, often called the Dharma, is authentic, is unspoiled, right? It will work. How do we know? We're here in a class like that. We have seeds to believe, but we could lose those seeds at any moment. So we want to be sure that what we're learning will work for us. And as we go further, we're going to recognize that for these teachings to work for us, we are going to share them with others, which means we want to be able to be sure that what we are sharing with others is accurate, correct, valid. Because those are the seeds that we want for teachings that we receive to be accurate, correct, valid, useful, right? Functional. Yeah. Okay. So there's criteria. We are in Gelugpa. There's criteria and definition and lists for everything. The criteria for Dharma, here's the term that talks about, kind of no, Tracy, but we'll get there. Accurate, correct, and valid are all three a little bit different things. That light doesn't look so good to me. Can you see it? Okay. Nyam su lenje chu. Nyam su lenje chu. Chu is the word for Dharma. Dharma means all existing things. Dharma means the Buddhist teachings. The word chu also means water, but just as a synonym. So here we're talking about the teachings. Chu, Dharma, the teachings. Nyam su lenje means teachings we can practice. So this is just the title for the topic of what makes a Dharma worth practicing, worth studying and practicing. Nyam su lenje chu. So there are three criteria for what makes a teaching worth practicing. So technically, well, yeah, things to consider for any teaching. Here's the first one. No, here's not the first one yet. There's a long Tibetan phrase. I didn't write it, but for the blessing, I'm going to read it to you. It's an explanation about this Dharma that's worth studying. So it says, Chu kung me la lo tang du drupa, je kyang tokpa tsenden ne chik mikye. I'll just say it again, because I'm supposed to do it twice. Chu kun me la lo tong du drupa, Jekyang Tokpa Senden Nechik Mikye. I apologize to everybody for my pronunciation. What it means is you can practice for 1,000 years a dharma which has no authentic source, but you will not develop one sliver of authentic realization. By authentic realization, what they mean here is a realization that will help us reach our total enlightenment. Right? So it does not mean that we won't gain anything from any other teaching than a Buddha's teaching. It means that realizations we gain from other paths are useful for other things than reaching nirvana or Buddhahood. Okay. I've spent many years studying stuff and practicing stuff that has helped me a lot in many different ways. But they did not have this connection between my behavior choices and my reality in the future. There were other reasons to behave nicely. All of it was helpful. I'm glad I studied them all. But they had different goals. I had different goals while I was studying them. I could say they helped me achieve my goals because, right, I reached what I thought they were offering me and then moved on. So don't hear this teaching as saying, don't waste your time with anything else. Although Geshe Michael says that a lot. Once we have our goal set for standing on the 1 billion planets, studying anything else gives us tools to help other people, get onto that path of wanting to stand on 1 billion places. So we do need to learn other things as we go along. And we'll see that this tradition agrees with that. But when we've got our sights set, right, on our own transformation, if we're gonna spend the time and effort trying to make that happen, we don't want to waste our time, do we? So that's what we're trying to build, is how do we gain the confidence in the tradition that we're in? Geshe suggests that the teachings that are offered through the ACI course series are authentic. And he says, study it, practice it, and your life will change. Now, life's changing all the time. The implication, it will change for the better. But we're only going to confirm that if we try and see. Yeah. Okay. So the scripture has this phrase, non-authentic teachings and practices are like trying to churn water into butter. No matter how much you churn water, you're not ever going to get butter. So what makes a dharma authentic so that we don't spend our time on turning water for butter. Our mind takes on the qualities of whatever we expose it to. It's interesting. As I say that, I see my friend's Christmas cactus. It's a great big Christmas cactus, and it's just limp and yellow. And it's like, oh my gosh. My mind takes on the qualities of yikers. Limp yellow. I feel like that myself sometimes. Geshe says it's very serious. So here are 3 qualities of the authentic Dharma, the Nam Su Lenje Chu. Ta-da. Here's the first one. Please say Tumpa Sange Ki Sumpa. Tumpa Sange Ki Sumpa. Sumpa means spoken. Tumpa Sange means the teacher, the Buddha. Sange is Buddha. Tumpa with a capital T is the honorific for teacher. So like the teacher, capital T, this tradition is talking about the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, in the case of Sutra. Open teachings. Tumpa. So the first thing that authenticates the Dharma is that it's been spoken by the Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, right? Or Lord Maitreya Buddha, if you believe that that's Buddha already, or any of the Buddhas before Shakyamuni. He's the 4th one for our world. Only apparently we don't have any existing scripture from those previous Buddhas, although we do have some teachings from them through Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings. So this tradition says any teachings that were spoken by the Buddha are teachings that are worth spending our time on. And that would eliminate a lot of other stuff, wouldn't it? So it takes a little, for me, it took a little bit of time, like working with this, to understand, you know, what it's really trying to tell me. The main idea is that we want to be sure that the teachings we're receiving, the person who's giving them has been trained in the classical lineage, right? That they're not just making something up. Now they're going to share their personal experience of the classics they've been taught, but they should be able to, you know, show you where it comes from. They should be able to show their teacher or who their teacher was. This tradition also has a strong component of knowing our lineage, right? Who taught them, who taught them, who taught them, who taught them. Okay. We don't want to be teaching our own philosophy. We can teach our own experience of the philosophy that we learned, but not make stuff up, and especially don't make stuff up and call it Buddha Dharma. Right? I've never been in that position of receiving that from somebody, as far as I know, anyway. So the explanation is a fully enlightened being Buddha is omniscient, that means anything that they spoke then was for us now as well as their audience then and every moment in between. It's hard to conceive conceptually, right? Being directly aware of all existence, of all time, all at the same time, and then still being a being who's giving a teaching at any single moment. That goes beyond my comprehension. So if we could read the Buddha's sutras, the sutras are said to be what the Buddha taught when he was walking the earth in India. And although it wasn't recorded back then, Buddha didn't even write it down. Once he passed, his disciples all got together and they wrote stuff down, apparently. And their goodness allowed them to have like auditory photographic memory, what do you call that? Because they were able to write word for word what he said. And, you know, the other students read each other's stuff. It's like, yeah, you know, I remember that's what I heard too. So they explain that the sutras that we have are the words of Buddha, even though, you know, it wasn't Buddha that actually wrote them down. And that's a little bit of a leap for me, but you know, it's one of those I've got on the shelf. So Buddhist teachings that come to us through the sutra are as valid for us now as when they were taught then. The thing is, there are only a few of them left, or a few of them. They say Lord Buddha taught 84,000 teachings. What we have available is 1,108 of those teachings. So apparently, a lot has been lost. And then that collection of the 1,108 are now written in Tibetan. So they're not available to me without relying on somebody else to change those words into English. And then I have to rely upon that person to be understanding what the Tibetan's trying to say, to be sure that the translation into English is accurate enough for me to study and to gain realization from. So we have extraordinary goodness to have classes like these, to have the seeds to receive the Dharma at this level. And I also have the unfortunate situation of not being able to go directly to the classics literature. I'm relying on translators. I have the goodness that I've met a translator with realizations, Geshe Michael, and I don't know about other translators. So it's a very slippery, right, place to be. We can get so narrow in our willingness to expose our mind that we say, I won't read anything but Jetsun Kappa according to Geshe Michael. And, I don't think that's right either. If we are thinking self-existently about Geshe Michael's translation, because not everybody relates to them, as, wow, this is extraordinary. Right? So I just don't want you to hear me saying, this is the only tradition, don't waste your time with anything else, because it sounds like that's what I'm saying, right? So I'm just trying to give you this criteria that you can use to decide, right? Is this the path for me? So there are these two terms that you'll hear Geshe Michael use, Kangyur and Tengyur. Kangyur means the collected works of Lord Buddha. The Tengyur means the collected works of teachers that were writing their explanations, their commentary on those teachings of Lord Buddha. When teachings of Lord Buddha are like the Heart Sutra, Diamond Cutter Sutra, Sutra of the White Lotus. When you read those, when I read those, they're beautiful, but I can't understand even the English. They go on and on about how many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and, Sangha was there. And it's like, what's this all about? The Tengyur then are commentaries about the sutra, cutting to the chase about what it's about and how to teach it. So commentaries are written by practitioners. This is how I used it. This is what works. This is what didn't work. This is how to consider it. A lot of us could write commentaries. Not all commentaries get into the Tengyur collection, right? So to get into the Tengyur collection, your commentary would need to have been used by people and checked by other practitioners, checked and checked and checked for being accurate presentation of what Buddha was teaching, to be accepted into the Tengyur. I don't know if they still have a process of adding new commentaries to the Tengyur or not, right? I kind of suspect that it's closed, but maybe not. The Kangyur and the Tengyur is what ALL is gathering, trying to find all of them in whatever languages they're available. The Kangyur is most complete in the Tibetan language, but still only 1,108 teachings out of 84,000. The Tengyur has 3,400 or something like that. I'll get there. The Tengyur has a whole lot more, because through the ages, there have been a lot of practitioners teaching and writing their commentaries, right? So things that Geshe Michael translates, he's translating from the Tengyur. Books that have been authenticated and accepted into this collection. His translations of Heart Sutra, Diamond Cutter Sutra, those are translations from the Kangyur. But he doesn't really translate sutra much. He goes to the Jetsun Kappa lineage of the Tangyur, mostly. Okay. The Kangyur that is Lord Buddha's teachings consists of texts about Vinaya, which is the teachings on vowed morality, texts about the teaching on the perfection of wisdom called the Prajna Paramita. I'll write it for you later. The sutra, which are the 3 sections of open teachings. It has the stories that Buddha used to teach people. And then the diamond way. No, Tracy, Kangyur means Buddha's teachings. Tangyur means other people's commentaries about the Buddha's teachings. Okay. All right, second quality, not quite time for a break, is Pandite Kyunsawa. Pandite Kyunsawa. Pandit, P-A-N-D-I-T. We use that word a little bit, even in English. It means a wise man, a wise person, a pandit, pandita. Pandits, Kyun, corruption, sawa, they've cleaned it. So it means wise people have cleaned corruptions from the teachings. So now there's not going to be corruptions in Buddha's teachings. There might be corruptions in the translations of Buddha's teachings that you would only know if you, the Pandita, right, knew the language that the text was written in and the language that was translated and understood the nuances between them to be able to say, well, you know, this translation isn't quite accurate to what the original teaching was saying. Mostly here they're talking about the Tangyur, the commentaries. They've checked people's commentaries and they've compared them to the Buddha's teachings that they're referring to, and they've compared them to other commentaries to make sure that there's nothing in those commentaries that's been made up or twisted, right, or misexplained, and clean those commentaries of those errors. So if I understand correctly, from time to time through history, you know, these trained people would go through all of those commentaries and commentaries that had been presented to be added, and they would check them and clean them up and throw them out if they didn't qualify, and keep them if they did. So historically, we are then able to trust those texts that have been accepted into this collection called the Tangyur, because other beings wiser than us have checked them for us. and clean them up. So beyond editing, right? It would be editing plus not knowledge correction. So again, we're thinking about what are the qualities of the stuff we want to learn. It makes sense that we want to learn from things that are tried and true and have been checked by more than one wise person, wiser than me for sure. So this is the second quality of authentic Dharma, is it's been all checked, right, by those with realizations. Geshe Michael gave a couple of examples. He said in his training time, he would hear things that he calls Dharma rumors. He would hear that people would say they learned or were taught that nirvana means reaching nothingness. This state of, being free from samsara means you're in this state of nothingness. And that's incorrect. Nirvana, the state of mind of nirvana, is a very specific ripening result of very specific purification and merit-making activities. And it's this state of mind of being completely free of mental afflictions and seeds for more of them, based on having experienced emptiness directly and then applied ourselves to living according to what we now know. Reaching nirvana, you don't disappear. Maybe you don't even, so we'll get there. So to be taught that reaching nirvana means you're finally free of suffering because you've reached nothingness. It would not, right? We wouldn't get there. Second Dharma rumor Geshe Michael talks about a lot is people teaching or understanding emptiness to mean just voidness. Oh, you reach emptiness, you're in the void, right? The void, nothing, right? Back to that nothingness. Like we're aspiring to be nothing, to be resting in the void. No, right? It says that nothing exists. And if nothing exists, then nothing matters. Because our, behavior doesn't really exist either. Right? And it's incorrect. Emptiness is that sheer absence of anything's identity or qualities in them from them. But that's so what does that mean, right? It takes years to work that out. A third Dharma rumor is this misunderstanding of the term Buddha nature. And I read it on Facebook, quote from a very high teacher recently. Oh, we're all already Buddhas because we have Buddha nature. We just need to uncover it. And, I'm not criticizing that teacher. That person has their reason for doing that, but it's one of those Dharma rumors. Yes, we have our Buddha nature already, because our Buddha nature is the lack of our own mind having its own qualities and characteristics in it from it. And that lack, sheer lack of self-nature is the possibility of that mind perceiving itself as omniscient, perceiving omniscience, which is what makes it a Buddha mind. We already have that Buddha nature. So do worms and gnats and bugs and hell beings. But I don't know about you, I'm nowhere close to Buddhahood. But I have Buddha nature. So just oversimplifying things for people's benefit, it can be helpful. But we don't want a dharma that becomes so oversimplified that it won't help us anymore. Right? Because our conclusion would be, well, I'm already a Buddha. I don't really need to do anything. And when I'm angry at yelling at somebody, it's just me, the Buddha, letting them have it because they deserved it. You know, wrong, just miss result. And then we die and lose the opportunity. So teachings that have been cleaned up, free of corruption, free of personal beliefs. Let's take a break and we'll do the third one.
Excuse me, may I ask something?
Yes, Natalia.
Hi, thank you for teaching. Can you help me understand the Geshe Michael, did he wrote his own commentaries for something? I understood that DCI courses are his own commentaries. Is this correct?
Right. So you could say his novel, The Garden, right, is a commentary.
Okay.
His diamond cutter business book,
Okay,
we could also call a commentary.
okay,
And the DCI teachings are, I don't think he would even say that those are commentaries in the sense of in the sense of the way we're using the term for the commentaries of the text that will move us along our spiritual path to Buddhahood. Because in the DCI teachings, people's goals are not Buddhahood, not full awakening. Their goals are better this human life. So the DCI texts are extraordinary and, you know, have the nuggets, but I don't think that we should lump them into the commentaries for the ACI. They are definitely useful, right? And accurate, right? Really accurate.
okay. Yes, I think they're genius, what he has done.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you.
Okay, thank you. And another question I have, I'm a little bit confused from the Buddha teachings, the Diamond Sutra. is this the main text that we are going to be learning through the 8 courses of ACI and then the other 8 courses of the higher, no?
The Diamond Cutter Sutra, we actually only get one course specifically on it in the ACI series, although it Geshe-la did a whole different set of courses on a commentary on the Diamond Cutter Sutra, right? That's also available. But the ACI coursework uses commentaries more than sutras. So Heart Sutra is the main sutra that we rely upon on the ACI, but already we've learned too from the Tangyur, which is the source of all my good, if you did that practice module, and this 3 principal paths. Okay. So these different textbooks that we are studying from ACI, they are textbooks about things that are in the Tangyur
Okay.
from the monastery. When we get to the Diamond Way, there's a whole nother set of Tangyur literatures.
In Tangyur, again, sorry to repeat, they're the commentaries of the Buddha teachings, but not necessarily just one.
Correct. Correct. Commentaries on Buddha's teachings within the category of Vinaya, within the category of perfection of wisdom, within the category of the Diamond Way, within the category of bodhicitta, right, the bodhisattva way of life, right? There are different Tangyur commentaries within those different categories.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are we back? Marina, are we back? Translators, are we back? 3. I see 3. Okay. So I found my place in my notes in the Tangyur, the commentaries. They have 3,400 treatises. These are the commentaries from the Indian masters on the tantras, the perfection of wisdom, the middle way, the sutras, mind-only school, Abhidharma, Vinaya, Jataka tales, letters, logic and perception, as well as what are called the minor sciences, Sanskrit, medicine, fine arts, architecture. All of those designed to help students understand the Buddha's teachings better. Then we have the Tibetan literature, which we primarily are studying the literature that makes up the monastic textbooks, because the ACI training is a monastic training in the Mahayana school. Okay, so quality of the Dharma number 3 is Drupe Wangchuki Tokpa. Drupe Wangchuki Tokpa. Tokpa means realizations. Got it? Okay. Drupe Wangchuk means the words are master practitioner, total control, by them realized. So what it means is that somebody took those teachings, mastered them, and gained realizations. Like the mastery of them is the realization. So the idea is they worked for somebody, and our conclusion is supposed to be so they can work for me too, probably, right? If I can master them. If we were studying, teaching, and we never asked, did this work for anybody? We would always have this question in our mind. Whereas the lineage itself, right, where it includes stories about people who have used these teachings and gained insight. And so change themselves and their world. And we have these stories in the Kangir and the Tengir, and they seem so wild. You know, that they seem like, you know, better than a fairy tale, but outside my reality. And yet, right, those, I need to work with those seeds. Fortunately, we have modern people like Geshe Michael, right, who demonstrate, especially if you've been, you know, under his care and feeding for a while. I'm seeing him and his life change as my seeds change, right? And my mind goes, oh, wow, I see how his practice is progressing. But really, it means my practice is progressing. Yeah. So we should look to see if the teaching we're following seems to have worked for the people who are teaching it to us. You know, and the ones who taught it to them. And the ones who taught it to them. If we can say to ourselves, oh, yeah, I see that it worked for them. Right, we can then have a greater confidence that maybe they can work for me as well. So Geshe says the quality of the Dharma is we hear it, we think about it, we meditate on it, which means we habituate to it, which means we learn to live by it. And then it liberates you. Liberates us from what? Mental afflictions, suffering, upsets, right? All those mental afflictions in response to other things. Our own mind changes because we change the seeds, because we change our behavior, because we change our worldview, because we've been taught authentic teachings about the pen, right? And how the pen applies to the yelling boss and the fabulous grandchild, right? Good things and bad things coming as results of our own behaviors. And when we connect the dot, we recognize it's my behavior choices. So who's in charge of my behavior choices? Nobody else. And then we go, okay, if I get that, how do I know what to choose? Yeah. And so the teachings have guidelines. Choose this over that and see what happens. Choose this over that. Okay? And those guidelines become our vows, vow behavior, so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel about what karmic seeds to plant to stop this suffering and what karmic seeds to plant to create this goodness in our world. Then our task is to just try it. And we'll succeed and we'll fail and we'll fail and we'll succeed. And it's all progress. So it's all really succeeding even when we mess up, we're still succeeding because we'll recognize we messed up. We'll learn what to do, apply our 4 powers, get back on the horse, and move along with even greater confidence. So that's my job, is to give you the foundation through which you can make your choices more wisely, and thereby change your world. So that's the Dharma. What makes an authentic Dharma? It's been spoken by Buddha. It's been verified by wise people, cleaned up and verified, and it's been used successfully by people ahead of me. The next part of this class is, well then, yeah, Tracy asked what authenticates a wise person. I don't know, right? The books say so. They're in the literature, right? Geshe Michael said so. All of those answers that I'm not allowed to use. You're pointing out exactly what I mean by black and white or gray. It's like, how do I know it's been spoken by a Buddha? I don't know. Okay? I have to trust the person who told me that. Well, how do I know I can trust them? Huh. By the end of the 18 classes, we're kind of got that worked out, because we really do need to verify it for ourselves. And we can when we understand about what makes them a wise person, my seeds. What makes it a teaching by the Buddha, my seeds, versus the teaching by somebody else. Well then, is a teaching by Buddha mean just Shakyamuni Buddha? Or isn't, like any other spiritual leader, a teaching by an enlightened being? Aren't they all valid? Aren't they all accurate? Don't they all teach behavior? How can there be one that doesn't work? We'll actually talk about it as we go on, because any teaching that works for anybody to help them make more kind choices is a teaching that's valid and correct. And any teaching that doesn't teach people to make kind choices is a teaching that is suiting the student for something else, which still makes it correct, just not for the goal we have in mind. Right? So if you want to learn how to wash a car, go take a teaching on how to wash a car. And it's a valid, correct teaching because it taught you how to wash a car. But if you want to stand on the billion planets, we have to go to a teaching that teaches that can happen and how to do it, in a way that somebody else has used to get there. Well, how do I know that if I've never seen anybody standing on a billion planets? Right. Okay. So that's a great tie-in, because the next section is, well, like, how do I be a kind of student that for whom these teachings will work? Like, I'm probably the most important piece of this puzzle. Me, the student, because I can hear it all and understand it all intellectually and never change my behavior. And that's not the fault of the Dharma, right? They say that in a pond with lilies, with lotuses. Some lotuses are open and some lotuses are closed, and some lotuses like are decaying. It's not the sun's fault that some are open and some are not. Right? It's the lotus. It wasn't the lotus's time yet, the one that's still a bud. So probably the most important component is the student. And so what are the qualities of a student for whom these teachings can work? We had before 3 qualities not to have. Right? A closed mind, the lid on the pot, preconceived notions, the grime in the pot, wrong motivation, grime in the pot, and the teachings flow in and flow out, cracked bottom, not making the effort to retain it and think about it and try to use it. Those are what not to be as a student. But there are 3 characteristics for a student to have in order to benefit from the teachings. So these come from a Indian master named Aryadeva. In the Tangyur is his 400 verses. I'm going to stop to write it down because I didn't have room before. Aryadeva is in the lineage of Arya Nagarjuna. He was a great teacher on emptiness in India around the 17th century. I always get confused. Is 17th century 1600s, 1700s, or 1800s? 1600s? 1600s, okay. In the 1600s in India, Aryadeva was doing his teaching and his writing, and it's included. You know what? I don't know if it's included in the Tangyur or if it's just the monastic textbook. I don't know that. Anyway, he's a great emptiness teacher. That's the point. And he wrote this text called the 400 verses, which is 400 verses on emptiness. And in it, he's pointing out the qualities of a student for learning, using these teachings to transform ourselves. So he says, Serne loden dunyerwa nyempo nu. Serne loden dunyerwa nyempo nu. Serne loden dunyerwa nyempo nu. 1, 2, 3. These are 3 qualities: Serne, Loden, and Dunyerwa. So Nyempo Nu means a proper vessel to hear the Dharma. Nu is a proper vessel. Nyempo means to hear the Dharma. a proper vessel to hear the Dharma is Sarahni. Sarahni is the word for the cornerstone, which I think means, you know, when you're building a building, you have to find the exact spot you're going to place it. And you start at one corner, I guess. You know, the cornerstone places the building and everything else gets built around it. So yeah, pillar would be a good translation. Yeah. So the cornerstone of a good student is this having no preconceived notions. So it's being impartial and open-minded, you know, like open to receiving without immediately comparing it, right? Which like so hard to do. We have a certain set of background information. We hear something new and we're automatically bing, 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 comparing it, right? Oh, this is considered, this is different. This is saying, yes, we're going to do that. But like our tendency is to say, this doesn't match what I knew before. And so there's a sense of reject, not completely throw out necessarily, but, you know, something in our mind goes, no, this isn't what I knew before. Well, that's the reason we're studying, right? Is we want to learn new. But there's this habit of, right, rejecting what's different. So I noticed myself from before when in my professional career needing to do continuing education that I was in medicine, but I was also in alternative care and complementary, right? And so I had this different take on how to manage things. And I'd be in a traditional medical conference about how to manage this, and this, and my mind would be going, nah, okay, that one, nah, right? Rejecting as I was listening. And it's like, stop that. You know, all that judgment is blocking me from really hearing what the speaker was, the clues, right, that they were trying to give me. So we have a tendency to listen to a teaching for confirmation of what we believe instead of listening to a teaching to learn something new. And once I recognized that I was even doing that in my Dharma studies, it's like, oh, okay, enough of that. Right? And it really changed my ability to understand. Loden, it means intelligent, but it doesn't mean IQ. It doesn't mean your ability to do math. It means just the ability to think clearly through difficult material, right? To keep our alertness and concentration and train of thought and interest and work out the details. You know, I think I said before I went through school, but I never really learned to think. And it was so refreshing, like to go, wow, I really can think. Yeah. Now I'm kind of losing it, but it's like, it's such a gift to understand that process of logic and recognizing the ramifications of our reasons for things and coming to say, well, you know, wow, my preconceived notions are getting in the way here. All designed to help us make our choices better. Okay. third one is Dunyirwa. Dunyirwa means our aspiration and strength to achieve that goal. So it's really got multiple qualities in there. It means the student has a high aspiration and the willingness to work hard to achieve that goal. Because we can have high aspiration, right? And not willing to work at it. Or we can be willing to work hard at something, but the goal is more immediately achievable, which is a good thing. But when we put those together, we have this high aspiration and the determination, right? The willing to put in the effort. Those come together as this quality of third quality of this student. Geshe says, we'll have rough times. We'll have easier times. And when we have our aspiration clear and our willingness to work hard, you know, the rough times may slow us down, but they won't stop us. Again, you know, when you're training as a athlete, a dancer, or musician, any kind of training, right? We get hurt, we bounce back. We, struggle with teammates, we come back. If we are holding to our goal of wanting to be able to achieve this level, understanding that we can expect that in our spiritual life as well, helps us not doubt ourselves when we reach it. It's like, how can I be being so intentionally kind and so much yuck is still happening around my world? Yeah, I mean, like, to me personally, it's not happening to me, but like, it's possible we'll hit that because we're stirring up the yuck. And if we understand this is part of the process, it's a great opportunity, you know, help me, teacher, get through this. That's the quality of a student for whom the Dharma works. Right? Not because the Dharma is different, like the sun on the lilies, but our ability to use it as a personal guide. Right? It's up to us, the student. So a proverb vessel for the Dharma is impartial, intelligent, aspires to the highest goal, and won't give up. 3 qualities, although there are 4 there. We'll see that again and again in the lists of Tibetan Gelugpa. I love to tease them. The 7 of this, of which there are 8, the 5 of these, of which there are 7. But I just poke fun. All right, Tracy asked me a question in the chat and I've forgotten what it was. It was back about the Tengyur again.
Between the Tengyur and the monasteric texts, what's the difference?
Right, so the monastic texts are the instruction manuals for the monks in training for their Geshe degrees, which all monks don't do that. If they do, the monastic texts are written as in specific instructions for study. And they are commentaries on sutras. They are commentaries on other Tengyur texts, but they are not in the Tengyur, right? They are the monastic textbook collections. Sarah May has a set. Sarah J has a set. Those are the only two I know about, but I presume all the different monastic traditions have their own set. And they apparently are very, what's the word? Seclusive, right? They tend to they don't do interlibrary loan except in special circumstances. But then they all come together to debate. So it's not like their texts are secret. It's just like, this is our tool and that's your tool. And then Shanti, it was only recently that the first set of nuns were conferred their Geshe degrees, like in the last less than 5 years. His Holiness decreed that that could be done. They did their training, right? It took them, years of training. And finally they sat for their debates. And I want to say 7 women, Tibetan women nuns, right, earned their Geshe degree. And of course, there's a whole nother set studying now. And now it's an ongoing lineage. And, it's such a fabulous, fabulous leap. Back in the 70s, when Ken Rinpoche got sent to Howell, and he started teaching the Lamrim, that evolved into, to some extent, it evolved into the monastic training. He taught to men and women, and he had more women in his classes than men. And apparently he caught flack for it. And over the years, he would tell the people who were complaining, my women American students are 100 times more advanced than your monks, right, on the debate ground. Like, he was so proud of his women students. And, Geshe Michael kept up that tradition, of course. And, I choose to believe that those were the seeds for us to see this shift in the Tibetan, right, in exile community, open up to recognizing that, of course, women should be geshes, of course. So yeah, it's a really, really a huge rejoiceable. So we're really learning the material that the Geshe program teaches. We really are, right? We're not assigned memorizing the text. We're not on the debate ground 5 hours a day. But the material that we're learning is the same. It's really cool. Take the whole 18 ACI courses, and you are as well trained a Gelugpa Mahayana Buddhist as there is anywhere. Truly. Worth the effort. For what we add to the world, right? As a layperson, living the Dharma in a world that doesn't appear to know anything about it, right? Okay. All right, that's all I have for today's class. I get credit for the extra 15 minutes later. I will need it. Unless there are questions further, Otherwise, we'll close early. We're okay? Good, good, good. So remember that person that you wanted to be able to help. We actually learned a lot that we will use someday to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's an extraordinary goodness. Goodness ripening and goodness being planted. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Grow your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, inspire you, and then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. That love, that compassion, that wisdom. In that holy of holies in the middle of your chest. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we share it by the power of the goodness that we've just done. May all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with kindness, filled with love. And may it be so. All right, my dears. Please do your homeworks and quizzes. And show me before class or after class, those who came a little bit late. Want to show me?
Are we able to do our own correction on the quizzes?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Tracy's finding it on her phone. Yay, Natalia, thank you. Good. Thank you to everyone who has done them. We know if we don't do them now, we're not gonna. And then we don't have completion seeds when we want completion to happen. Thank you, Tracy. So it's completion we want. Please, that's what I want for you. Okay, have a lovely weekend. I will see you Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarahni.
Thank you, teacher Sarahni.
Bye.
Thank you, teacher.
Welcome. Bye-bye.